So the first project is a Serpentine Pavilion. It was already 2 years ago. But this project is very important for me because this has the important, all the essence of Fujimoto architecture in it. It's small, but it has, in a sense, everything. It is in London, in front of the beautiful Serpentine Gallery garden. But as you can see, yeah, it is like a really cloud-like structure, but it's made by thin steel pipe, created in the grids of 40 centimeters, sometimes in the 80 centimeters. And yeah, as you can see, this is so group of a huge grid. So in a sense, it is super artificial order, 90 degrees, straight lines. But finally, after finishing, you will see it is like a cloud or really soft something. And the experience is really soft, not like a straight, strong order. So in here, you will see how we can bring that kind of a softness of nature into architecture. And of course, the inside and outside of this building is really amazingly melting together. Yeah, as you know, the inside and outside is one of the really fundamental aspects of architecture, and how to make, integrating together, sometimes creating the varieties between inside and outside is a really amazing challenge. And in here, we have the depths of the air by these grids, and then it has the depths of the structures, the depths of the air, and finally creating the blurring boundaries. The whole process was very, very exciting. It's really a big, exciting fight with the client, and especially the director, one of the director, her name is Julia Payton-Jones. Now we are really good friends, but at that time, it was like a clients and architects, but beyond that, it's like we fight it. And yeah, conceptual design period was only 1 month. It was so tight schedule. So we have to send some sketches 1 week after the first meeting. So I made some sketches and I sent to them, and then made a phone call conferences. Yeah, I asked her, how is that? And she said, no, it's not the Serpentine Pavilion. Why? It's too much Fujimoto-like. So, okay. I'm Fujimoto, and you appointed Fujimoto, but you don't like Fujimoto-like things. So next week, we send another sketch, and then make a phone call. How is that? She said, no, completely no, again. Why? It's too much not Fujimoto-like. So you don't like Fujimoto, and you don't like not Fujimoto, and probably we have to make something between Fujimoto and not Fujimoto. Like things. But of course it makes sense because they like to bring our previous whole history of the Fujimoto architectures, not just take it, bring the history of Fujimoto architecture into some new upper level. So that is the intention of them. So we struggled, and finally we made it. And this was the process model. Doesn't look like the final one, but it's just one step behind, or one step before the final model. It is like this continuous surface of the paper model. It looks like a bit the Frank Gehry, but of course I didn't care. And the intention was that is to try to create the architectural landscape, because the main program was cafe. But of course it is not only the cafe, but for the multi-purpose. So we try to create landscape-like spaces where people can behave various different ways as they like. Not just sit on the chairs, not just sit on the table. More varieties, diverse behaviors is more ideal. So we try to create not like a usual flat floor architectures, but more like a landscape. But then after making this model, we found out the surface is too strong to block the beautiful surroundings, beautiful park trees. So how to do with that? To keeping the landscape, but make it more transparent. And finally, I got an idea to transform this landscaping into grids, to make it more transparent, but still keeping the structures and keeping the landscape like stepping areas. Then finally, our ideas came out. So landscaping, but at the same time, should be more and more, how to say, architectural transparency. And then you will see, this is an amazing photo because you will see how the transition of the transparency is changing according to the layering of the structures. It is, how to say, we have a lot of layers of the structures. So according to your direction to see some directions, then the layering is thicker, it's getting more opaque. The layering is thinner, it's getting more transparent. So it is always moving. 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps you go forward, then the whole transparency is always changing. So this is showing the central areas is more transparent, but on the side, it's getting more and more whitey, cloudy, vanishing. If you move around, then the transparency is always changing. So the structure or architecture is always fixed. It's really strong and don't move. But you, yourself, or people could move. And the whole experience is more flexible. So finally, we have a beautiful contrast of the really strong or static architecture and really dynamic movement or dynamic experiences of or changing transparency experiences. So I think we can make it. Architecture is not moving, but we could make such kind of a dynamic, moving like or changing like experiences. And changing feature is, I think, one of the really strong part of the nature. Nature is always changing. So we could integrate with that. This is the interior. And you will see how some of the area we just put a table, and some of the areas, stepping areas, we were going up. And then that stepping area could be like the amphitheater, like a small version of this hall. And the whole roof and the structures, all of them are made by the same grids, same thin steel structures. But everything is really, really, how to say, subtle, sometimes really strong, and sometimes really transparent, sometimes really opaque. It's really amazing. And these stepping areas and big openings within the interior spaces. It's really, really dynamic. And we have a nice small module because it's very important. Because it is starting from a really thin 2 centimeter steel bar, and then getting into the furniture scale, and then getting to the architecture scale, and finally it's getting to the landscape bigger scales. So we have a good transition from a tiny physical furniture scales into the architectural scale and landscape scales. Again, we have the contrast, small things, bigger things, the middle things, when we have a transitions. Then we could have more choice, more diversities. And then finally, in the evening, it's really, really getting beautiful, lighted up from the bottom. So yeah, as I said, it has the essence of Fujimoto architecture, even though it's Fujimoto or not Fujimoto things. But because it is always dealing the opposite things, architecture things, nature things, straight line and softness, furniture scales, architecture scales, inside and outside, and transparencies and opaqueness. Everything, every opposite thing is kind of an architectural, essential, fundamental aspects. So try to rethink about it, going back to the beginning, try to rethink about it, redefining about it, and then recreate the new definition of architecture. That is a very, very important concept behind my architecture.